Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we are here with some really fast-paced games we're hoping from the Move and M2KC. Every single time these two teams meet, all they want to do is kill each other. This is Jamili, you know, every time he meets Peekaboo, he wants to show off that he was wrong to leave him in the first place, whereas Peekaboo, of course, it doesn't matter who he plays against, he just wants to go for blood instantly. It almost cost them their last series, or one of the games of the last series, but these are two teams that are so fun to watch. They're so high-paced. We're expecting some big octane games coming in here. I'm HealingStat hosting for you. We've got Venruki, Supertease, and Zico on the desk. And I mean, I've already shown it. I'm super excited for this series. What do you think they're going to be running with as we go into this blind pick, Z?
I think at least in game number one, or I'm hoping, both teams just play their main compositions: Biomage, Rogue, Holy Paladin, and Rogue, Shadow Priest, Shaman. And I think the chat took your advice here, HealingStat, because a lot of people are giving the Move their energy here. 88% coming in on the vote.
This has been absolutely great. The last send-off series of 8.1.5, the last tournament, and we're seeing Shadow Priest everywhere. We're seeing Smexon, we're seeing WizK, and you guys love it at home. 88% going to the Move, but M2KC will lead with a different composition. It's one that we talked about. Jamili actually teamed up with Rosita Jones for this Elemental Mage.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the compositions we thought M2KC could start running, bringing Rosita Jones onto the roster. Normally we see Jamili on the Fire Mage, but now it's going to be Rosita Jones holding it down. Jamili going to be tagging in on that Elemental Shaman, and with the Holy Paladin, you have a combination of classes that can get big one-shots on basically anyone. Normally you could go after the healer, but you have massive burst potential with Hammer of Justice, with Lightning Lasso, with the Meteor. Let's have to see what they can get done. For the Move, it's going to be more of a consistent race. They're going to be going after Rosita Jones early on, but they could honestly go after anyone in this matchup.
I'm curious to see if M2KC do some 3 versus 1 strategies, initiate crowd control on 3 players, and then burst 1 down. So far, their entire team is kind of just dead. I mean, WizK is shredding right now. Rubcub is struggling. This is Avenging Crusader. You don't typically see the Paladin just barely floating above the water, about to drown while Avenging Crusader. Is this Divine Shield? Is this just the end of the game? Peekaboo owning Rub. That's Divine Shield. Master Spell instantly silenced after Rubcub is starting to falter. He's fully stunned. There's nothing. Smoke bomb's over. The Move just, well, okay, Rubcub's holding on. There's still a kick. He can't get through the kick. Peekaboo nails it. Well then.
Whoa, that's the Move, baby, I believe is the quote that gets thrown around in a situation like that. WizK triggers out, lands the Master Spell immediately on the Divine Shield, and through pressure, pure pressure from the Move as they take game 1 here. Domination.
What was that?
I don't know, pure pressure, peer pressure from the chat. I'm not really sure here, but that was insane. And I like that Peekaboo, he held his kick there at the end as well on the fast cast. Then he goes for the recast Rubcub and immediately insta-kicked, and I mean, that's it. WizK with the pre-Master Spell as well. These guys were just firing on all cylinders here. Rubcub on the Avenging Crusader there, dropping a little bit low here from just the rot pressure. Peekaboo seeing the opportunity here, swapping over with the Maledict, with the Kidney Shot. Rubcub trinkets immediately out of there. His Gladiator Safeguard procs as well, and Peekaboo actually hasn't even activated his evasion here for the Avenging Crusader. Just somehow Rubcub isn't able to get away to stabilize. There's the Blessing of Freedom and the Divine Shield. WizK trinkets out, gets the Master Spell. There's the Kidney Shot, and Rubcub did a big mistake here using his trinket and his Divine Shield. Basically on the same setup, there is the instant kick from Peekaboo as well, not falling for the fake cast. The Move up 1-0 within seconds.
Yeah, absolutely insane. Like that kick, he didn't just kick the cast, he kicked Rubcub out of the game with that one. Incredible stuff coming in from the Move, and that's what we like to see from this team. They're able to find their element in this matchup. They're not playing against the, you know, the Demon Hunter Death Knights or the Windwalker Death Knights. They've had a good bracket here, and if they can win this one, it will be huge for them. This is the last cup before we get that 8.2 patch coming out next week, and this would secure them a top 4 finish, which they desperately need.
There's no question about it. The Move really struggled in the spring season, but so far it's been looking better for them in the summer season. And as you said, 8.2 just around the corner. This is the final tournament in 8.15, and that could be completely game-changing for the Move. They could go from a team that, you know, is kind of struggling to make it to that top 4, top 6 position to a team that's just dominating everybody, depending on how everything plays out. So we'll have to see how that plays out for them. They have been adapting a little bit in this game, but I'm kind of curious why M2KC went for this particular particular matchup. I mean, it's not a big surprise that the move is probably going to be locking in RPS. I mean, that would have been my guess. And I think the Elemental Shaman and Fire Mage Paladin isn't necessarily the best matchup.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Obviously, we talk about the move. Super excited to see them coming out the gates flying, but on the side of M2KC, we already actually saw the move destroying a Paladin. I think it was Korlik earlier, right, who was playing that Halu Paladin. He actually swapped over to the Shaman. Maybe we see Rubcub come out on the Druid in game 2. What do you think, Sid?
I mean, I would rather see the Rogue Mage Paladin, I think, from them, but even still, I mean, Paladins have been getting shredded all day, like you said, so that might be a sign that Rubcub needs to make a change, but I don't even know if it would be enough. I just feel like if the move play like that, and they just play on fire for the rest of the series, that they could just wipe away Mew Mew Kitty Cats, advance forward to the top 4, where they will inevitably meet one of the Death Knight teams. So hopefully if they make it to Sunday, they have an answer for it, because they're going to need an answer. There's no way they can avoid a Death Knight all the way to first place. If they could, I think the move would get first place, but they're not going to. There are Death Knight teams in the murky waters, so hopefully they have something ready for Sunday. But right now, when they play teams that don't have those Death Knight comps, they just own them.
What about M2KC? I mean, it is a bit out of left field, but we did see Jamili play the Windwalker Monk, and we saw Rosita Jones playing the Death Knight. I mean, M2KC has shown that they play Windwalker Death Knight. And if you have Rubcub sort of backing you up, I mean, Rosita Jones, we know he's a phenomenal Death Knight. Rubcub, obviously an incredible healer. I think he could manage on both the Paladin in this particular matchup, or even the Restoration Druid. But, you know, Jamili on the Windwalker Monk is still a little bit of a question mark, but that is an option for them against the move. I think it's a good matchup.
Yeah, I mean, it's something. Obviously, we talked about this last week as well. It's like Roosties basically is dropping the ball. Potentially, he should be playing the Windwalker, you know? Like, he's playing one spec of Rogue, whereas Jamili and Rosita Jones are both multi-classing much more. Maybe Roasties has spent some time actually building something up. Obviously, we don't know how much time, you know, he gets to practice, but they are going to, once again, lock in this Elemental Fire Mage. Do you think it's possible that that first game was just a series of errors from M2KC and they can play the second game better on a bigger map? Or do you really feel like this matchup is one the move will just take, Z?
Well, I feel like the move has the edge, just based off of the fact that how the first game went, but I also think that the matchup isn't supposed to just end that quickly. I think, you know, Rubcub, he could have held on to his Trinket, used his Divine Shield a little bit earlier. He could have used some cooldowns preemptively. Of course, they could have for sure stabilized in that situation a little bit better. He just got caught up in a situation where he had to essentially use his Divine Shield, his Trinket, and his Avenging Crusader all in one setup. And then, of course, as soon as you're caught up with that Forbearance, you can't even use your Blessing of Protection to get out of that kidney shot, whereas if you use your bubble and then your Trinket, you can use a Blessing of Protection on another stun, and then that way you can space out your cooldowns a little bit better, which obviously Rubcub already knows about, but they can definitely survive longer. But it didn't really feel like they had that big pressure that we expect from this composition either, so I'm not sure if the matchup is going to be favorable or not. Tolveron seems to be a great map to do it on though, so we'll see.
Well, M2KC, they really need to pull back the series 1-1. If they were to lose on their biggest map with this supposed counterpick, they knew that the move were going to play the Restoration Shaman Rogue Shadow Priest most likely. So M2KC really have an opportunity here. They can't afford to falter.
All right, let's see if they can get it done here. I'm going to say chalk that game number 1 up to just unlucky blunder, or maybe inexperience on the composition. So here in game number 2, they're going to have an opportunity to give us a more proper sample size.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll have to see what they can get done. For the move, it's going to be about denying those big one-shot setups, because the composition M2KC is bringing, it's not a composition that has particularly great consistent damage. It's going to be about those combustion one-shots with the Lightning Lasso, and if they can find openings, they can definitely land a kill in this matchup. But I feel like the move, with the way they're playing today, is going to be able to deny a lot of those opportunities, but we'll have to see exactly how it plays out. Rubcub, I think, is going to be second-guessing an offensive push after what happened in game number 1, but I don't think he can afford to do that. Their composition, they have to be willing to play aggressive. We really need to see Rubcub pushing in, getting those Hammer of Justices, getting that damage out. And it's actually Peekaboo who's going to be under fire early on. Rosita Jones securing some crowd control, but he actually gets kidney shot up. That was a good attempt there by M2KC, but the move managed to survive.
This composition is built to exploit melee DPS such as the Assassination Rogue, but Peekaboo is not a rogue that you're going to easily exploit. Rubcub sitting through an extended crowd control chain. Rosita Jones in trouble. Ice block already very early on, forced by the move. En masse dispelled off by WizK. The move are on point today. I mean, I almost feel like if it's ever a Shadow Priest Rogue Shaman meta, they're winning BlizzCon. There's absolutely nobody that can stop them. But if it's not, then that's where we start to see them fall apart. I mean, it's actually crazy how quickly they're dismantling M2KC. M2KC looking to counterattack now. Jamili getting a greater Pyroblast. Big Earth Shock. Or sorry, Rosita Jones getting the greater Pyroblast. A bit confusing when there's formally 2 mages on the same roster. Peekaboo at low health, but he doesn't care. He's going for the kill. Rubcub is silenced. Temporal Shield needs to be enough. Avenging Crusader gets activated, but we even saw in the past this may not be enough. A bit surprising that Peekaboo doesn't evasion the Avenging Crusader to try and remove its healing effects and avoid some of its damage at least, but the move are going to have to wait for Avenging Crusader. They don't have nearly the same amount of pressure as they did in the last situation. But in the meantime, M2KC are counter-engaging. Big Meteor, Lightning Lasso. That's going to be a Cloak of Shadows. Absurge is still crowd-controlled, and M2KC finally showing the strengths of their composition.
Yeah, Peekaboo with full KD shot, Smoke Bomb onto Rosita Jones. Peekaboo needs to get topped off. Absurge has a bit of work cut out for him right now. It is going to be a Quaking Palm on Rubcub to continue the crowd control chain with a full Hex onto Jamili. Nice double fear coming in from WizK. An interrupt on Rosita Jones denies the decurse onto Jamili, so that full Hex will sit from Absurge. Now a kidney shot on Rubcub as it looks like Peekaboo is going to be turning his attention onto the Holy Paladin. Shadow stepping back to Rosita Jones. Peekaboo all over the map at this point. He basically has 2 main pressure points, both Rubcub and Rosita Jones, and Rubcub is struggling to heal up. He's got no Avenging Crusader. He's caught into a silence. Rosita Jones is rotting down. This could be Divine Shield. The move has a lot of pressure.
I have not seen this amount of damage before in an arena match in some time. The move are just absolutely melting the Mew Mew Kitty Cat's faces off at this point. And now they're really limited on defensive cooldowns. A full blind, he's playing Relentless. He can't get out of that unless he Divine Shields, and that'll be the last line. Rosita's trying to hold out with a Temporal Shield. Peekaboo connects. That Gladiator's Maledict absorbs the Temporal Shield. Peekaboo stuns him behind the pillar. Absurge purges down the Blazing Barrier. Cauterize going to trigger. Rosita whiffs the Dragon's Breath on Peekaboo. It ends up getting clutched out by WizK. 2-0 lead for the move.
Absolutely insane there. The purges, the stun on the trinket from Peekaboo, Rubcub greedy, and the move 2-0 up.
Yeah, and that silence at the end as well to prevent the ultimate sacrifice. This is what the move does. When they're not up against the double melee teams with those DKs, this is what happens. Every game they just make quick work of their opponents, and I think it's time for M2KC to maybe swap out their composition, because this was another very dominant win here. A little bit of a mistake there onto Absurge, overlapping the Hex and the Sheep. The Sheep actually ends up overriding the Hex, gets overridden by the Sheep, which means that the duration basically just gets halved. Rubcub caught up in a kidney shot, uses his Blessing of Protection to get out of that one, and then of course the Maledicts are coming in. Now they're swapping back over to the Mage. They're already forced the Ice Block on Rosita Jones. There is the blind, and Rubcub using his Blessing of Protection. He's not going to be able to get out of that one. Peekaboo with the beautiful sap at the end of that one as well. Since Rubcub is playing Relentless, he can't really do much about it. WizK with the Mind Control, with the silence, and that's going to just deny that Hand of Sacrifice completely, and that's 2-0 for the move, baby.
Yeah, it's a really good catch. The Forbearance actually, so you couldn't get the Divine Shield at the end of the day. Absolutely incredible. The move. I said this series was going to be fast, but I couldn't imagine anything like this. What's going to happen next? I've always wanted to do this. If you have any members of the move in the chat, could you let me know, please? Could you let me know if we have any members of the move? Because I think we're starting to get some members of the move on the desk here. Absolutely incredible stuff coming in from the team. 2-0 up in some of the quickest fashion we've seen all weekend. Only Gelu Baba has been the person to rival this. And guess what? WizK's a panda as well. Excellent gameplay coming in from him. Love to see the pandas. Love to see the Shadow Priests. And looking for a quick 3-0 here to move forward to the top 4, which would be absolutely fantastic for the move. I'm Healing Stat hosting. We have Venruki, Super Tees, and Zico on the desk for what could potentially be a very quick 3-0 here before we head into our final series of the day, which will feature Method Orange and Never Lucky. An absolutely crazy series. You won't want to go anywhere for this one. But prior, we have to talk about the matchup here. This is the swap that we wanted to see from M2KC. Rubcub dropping the Paladin, bringing in the Druid, and Jamili and Roasties bringing in the Elemental Rogue, which saw them go so far last week.
I mean, yeah, this is a composition we saw M2KC sort of debut last week into the Demon Hunter Death Knight compositions they were really struggling against, and it worked out okay. It had success against some teams, they lost it against others, but I think overall it's a pretty well-rounded composition. The Assassination Rogue obviously brings a lot of consistent damage. You have good defense and burst damage from the Elemental Shaman, so I don't mind the pick, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to take down the move.
It's going to be interesting, certainly. We did commend M2KC on their gameplay when they played this comp last week. They did look really good on it. You know, they beat the boys playing several compositions that we thought were hard matchups. And, I mean, to be quite frank, M2KC's Elemental Fire Mage didn't look good. So it's good to see them coming out in fighting form in this final game. Maybe they can just play better.
Maybe, but I'm not even sure if this is the comp that I wanted to see. I wanted to see Jamili Walker and, of course, Rosita on the DK.
Did you really want to see that?
I actually really wanted to. I would give them a higher chance to win playing the Windwalker DK, Resto Druid, than this, honestly.
Well, Zico doesn't really seem very confident in M2KC here in Game 3. It's going to be Tiger's Peak.
It's more that I'm confident in the move.
Okay. So more so confidence in the move here. The move obviously have looked fantastic all day long. They had a great first series, looking to have a great second series. And I mean, honestly, on Sunday, they could well continue to do so, although there's probably going to be a few more Death Knights for them tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't think we can confidently call Peekaboo the man of the year just yet, but definitely the man of the day. He's doing a phenomenal job on that rogue. Honestly, the move just firing on all cylinders. This is what their team looks like when they're playing their best. And they're all over the place, multiple targets, multiple pressure points. M2KC is constantly guessing who they're going after, and they're just setting up these beautiful kill opportunities. I think this composition for M2KC is going to be a lot better, but we'll have to see what they can get done.
All right, let's see what they can get done. The move, they're going after Rubcub immediately. Jamili, though, hexes Peekaboo and saves Rubcub quite easily. Roasties peels back. Looks like he wants to go after Peekaboo. Potentially just dotting up multiple targets, trying to exploit the weakness of making the Shaman have to cast heals if there's pressure onto multiple players, and then open up to a wind shear. Jamili is trying to protect Rubcub. Usage of that Lightning Lasso, stalling some damage. Big Storm Keeper or Lightning Bolts. Rubcub moves in. Jumps in for a Bash Cyclone, no denial on that. Peekaboo then moves over to counter aggress. The move still just trying to go after Rubcub on that Druid. Perhaps test his capabilities on that healer as they know it's going to be an alternate. Rubcub Shadow Melts the Gladiator's Maledicts. He's able to avoid a lot of healing absorptions, but they got his Gladiator Safeguard regardless. One Swiftmend out of the way. Rubcub trying to line of sight, gets interrupted on the heal. Peekaboo has just been slaying healers all day today, so potentially the move clean it up here. Finally some pressure though onto WizK with that Lightning Lasso. That gets his Gladiator Safeguard shield procced as well. Cooldowns traded on both sides. Rubcub getting interrupted again by Peekaboo. Jamili setting up to potentially move towards Rubcub and save him. Roasties is peeled back. We see Stormkeeper from Jamili potentially here in 1 second, as they may look for big burst. Hex, Windshear on Upsurge into a full Hex. It's perfect timing. He can't use Grounding Totem. Now they kidney shot WizK at the exact same moment, and they get a dispersion. That was a clean setup by M2KC. Peekaboo went on a solo mission while his Shadow Priest was in trouble and didn't get anything, so M2KC keep themselves in the game.
Yeah, M2KC really striking back. I would say they have most of the pressure in this matchup. Rubcub with no Trinket is vulnerable, but I think if Jamili and Roasty can keep up the pressure they're putting out on WizK, it's going to be difficult for him to really push in and take Rubcub down. Rubcub is constantly repositioning himself across the map as far away as possible, but a big attempt here over onto Roasty. What are they going to be able to get done? Kidney shot into Capacitor Totem. Roasty trinkets out into a Cloak of Shadows. Gladiator Safeguard procs as well, and now Roasty's going to be vulnerable. That was the smoke bomb from Peekaboo, so Rubcub should be able to back Roasties up if they do decide to make an attempt on him once again.
All right, let's see if M2KC can protect Roasties for the next attack. Peekaboo vulnerable, WizK vulnerable with no Gladiator's medallions. Jamili actually just taking some damage from WizK just through the pillar from those damage over time effects. Rubcub's mana already not in the best position. Silence on Rubcub. WizK moves in to try and fear. Jamili pre-tremors. Roasty's still down at about half health. Rubcub gets interrupted by Peekaboo. Peekaboo looking to close this game out on Roasties. Roasty's still very low on health. Gladiator's Maledict dispelled by Rubcub, but now he's in a Vampiric Touch to fortify. Roasty still has multiple Gladiator's Maledicts. With the evasion up, Peekaboo can't kill him, so Peekaboo is going to crowd control Rubcub instead. let WizK develop momentum, then vanish cheap shot Roasty to prevent evasion's effectiveness. WizK moves in on the kidney shot. If WizK, he disperses for mobility to get on top of RubCub to close the game out. A very risky move, but it could just win the game. They silence the trinket on the blind, and they're going to take it. Aggressive moves from the move in game 3.
You love to see it. The move with the offensive dispersion coming out of WizK at the end of that one for the Panda racial of all things to seal the deal against M2KC. Love to watch this team. Can't wait for them tomorrow.
Yeah, and the other thing there is WizK has the fear out of the Panda racial, but he knows that there is a Tremor Totem on Jamili. He doesn't want to use it. Instead, they opt in to use the blind, and then, of course, they combo that with the silence immediately on the trinket. That was, once again, such a beautiful, beautiful kill, and, you know, that's what happens when you don't have a DK or a Windwalker in Rookie. So, you know, I just want to say I had a little bit of faith in this composition here.
Rookie?
I'm just saying, you were a little bit skeptical. This setup right here, though, was so nice. Peekaboo goes for the kidney shot and then, of course, goes for the vanish sheep shot. And that's because Roasties has evasion up. You can sheep shot somebody who has evasion, but you cannot kidney shot him unless you do it from the back. So Peekaboo gonna opt in to use his stun lock. In that order, there's the blind, RubCub trinkets, and then gets immediately silenced on the trinket. Beautiful dispersion as well to clear out those slows and to reach the target there. Just excellent place from the move.
Absolutely incredible, and the move really needed this. We can have a look at the bracket. They are secured into Sunday's top 4. We will be seeing the move once again tomorrow. We've got a stellar lineup for tomorrow, quite honestly. The boys versus Cloud9, a rematch from spring. The move make it to top 4 for the first time this season. And now to round out today, we have Method Orange going up against Never Lucky. Obviously, that's also a big game. You know, Never Lucky and Method Orange were the grand finalists in the last cup. So this is a series that we would have expected to see later on, but teams have been really building up this series. And the first thing we said today is the North America's competition this year is absolutely crazy. Picking 4 teams from this bunch is so difficult, but I mean, they're all really hungry for it, and you can see it here.
Yeah, I mean, Zico earlier today didn't even include the move. Just to throw him under the bus a little bit, yeah. He didn't even include the move in his top 4, so he kind of forgot about them a little bit. But
top 5.
The move showing
And now he's
today
saying he's
that
part
they're
of the
still in
move.
it. Yeah. Now he's trying to pretend he's on the move, but it's okay.
Hey,
we know how it goes.
I go series by series, okay?
Series
I
by
go with
series.
what I have in
Okay.
front of me, okay?
Okay. Well, maybe if Jamili had played Windwalker 3 games, then they would have won in Zico's book. So we'll have to see. Anyways.
They definitely would have.